Oh, this is gonna be a long meeting tonight because it's the police part. I left you a bunch of meat, buddy. I'm gonna throw up before Trey comes. You better eat all the stuff I'm giving you, dog. I was probably went to that mall to get the shoes. All right, Layla. Okay. Everybody just watch it.
Okay.
Did you get it? Did you get it? You can't get it. You want that bone.
Hi, Dom.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Hello, Burrito. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Mr. Weber.
Hi, everyone. Here we are again.
Hello, hello.
Four, five, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we have a quorum. Why don't we give it a minute or two for other folks to get here?
Marjorie.
Ms. Cook is trying to log in. Mr. will not be able to make it this evening.
Who won't be coming?
Ms. Dolan, she's
Okay, thank you.
complication. Everything's good, but life keeps on moving, even when it's budget season.
That is for sure. I didn't get into the executive session yesterday. But the vote that we voted on yesterday, I mean the item we voted on yesterday, was it approving 2 police officers?
It was a memorandum of understanding that calls for and Chief, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'll make sure I try to be very clear. There was a memorandum of understanding between the town and the police union for money to be given to the town, concessions, mainly holiday pay, plus some things about disciplinary actions, plus including an extension of the contract, which includes a general wage increase, plus increases in what the police will pay for insurance. Some of those 2 things are kind of, that would have extended anyway. Kind of very brief summary. And it also included funding of 102 sworn officers. And with one of that is including a lieutenant. There's 2 lieutenant positions. One is presently in the budget, and the second one there'll probably be a motion tonight to add into the positions, as we agreed to that last night. And so that's where we're at on that. And I think there will be actually a little statement about that in a moment or two when Mr. Jackson arrives. I see Mr. Jackson in the audience.
Yeah, I'm listening. All right, thank you.
Chief, was that an accurate restatement? I want to make sure I was clear.
Yes, I think that was very accurate. And I think the other answer to Council Member Gary's question, yes, it increased 2 officers to the amount of officers that we have here at the police department. So we increased from 100 to 102.
Does that include the deputies, chief?
Yes, it does. That includes the deputy and the chief spot.
So it was 100 officers, including deputies, chiefs, lieutenants, the whole shebang. And so by the memorandum of agreement, now it's 102. And that calls for the lieutenants, one of which is in the budget, and another one we'll have to add.
Okay, thank you.
It helps me to understand. I'm glad we're talking it out. All right, so we'll just give it one more minute for folks to come in and then we'll get started. Well, I'll wait for the meeting to start. Okay, there are 12 of us in attendance. So Miss Klaus is having some Wi-Fi issues and will hopefully be able to join soon. Mr. Alston. Okay, why don't we get started? Hopefully the council people are not here, will be able to join. I'll call out of recess or back from recess this meeting of the Hamden budget deliberations at 6:10. We will not be taking a roll, but Ms. Renta will be taking attendance. A couple of housekeeping items and sort of working through tonight because we think it is going to be a relatively large night. Mr. Weber and Mr. Caesar were going to lead our discussions this evening, but Mr. Caesar is teaching at the moment, and it is hard to do that and run a meeting at the same time. So I will be covering his section of traffic, but also be taking Mr. Weber's time in animal control, just because I think we can all kind of predict a long meeting for the police department, so he doesn't have to do the whole thing tonight. And also I asked Ms. Renta to publish a change schedule. So adding to our agenda for next week, well, starting on Saturday, we have moved engineering to the morning of Saturday. That'll be our first department. And then community youth service, mayor's office, et cetera. We'll get as much of that done as we can. I do realize we are going to be running into a time predicament on Saturday. I myself will probably at some point in the afternoon be joining from a car as I will be traveling to see my mommy. And as I know, hopefully everybody is making plans because it's an important day. And then Tuesday has been designated as our night for tabled items, and hopefully we can complete our deliberations on Tuesday. Wednesday has been scheduled tentatively as a public hearing, and Thursday tentatively as a vote. So we'll see how we progress. If we need more time, we need more time, we still have the 14th and 15th, which are a Friday and a Saturday. So if that's needed, it's there. Hopefully not, and hopefully we can come to a good agreement about what we like. Mr. Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, just a point of clarification. You said we're having a public hearing, so I don't think we should limit the public. If we're doing it tentatively, like what time would we be scheduling it to start?
Why don't we say 6 o'clock as we've been doing? And the public hearing itself is not tentative. The public hearing is definite. When it will be is the question. I've been weighing, I know people want to have lots of time to know that there's a public hearing coming versus the fact that we might not be able to have it on Wednesday. and then switching it would be confusing as well. So it is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, the Wednesday. The schedule right now says to be determined. And if we can get to a good place on Tuesday, we will have a public hearing on Wednesday.
Okay. But we're having. Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of work to do on Saturday, and we have some tabled items I think will take a lot of discussion on Tuesday, but hopefully we can work through those. And if not, like I said, we have some time built in on the weekend that is not scheduled, but could be if it becomes necessary.
I guess my only thought was that it would, from my perspective, it would make more sense to do the table items after the public hearing so that people can kind of flush out all their frustrations and concerns with us, and then we could be methodical. Because I could see us voting on something and then people maybe someone they have good points during our public hearing, and it's like, we just spent 3 hours arguing the reverse. We don't want to go against the will of the community, but we just spent a lot of time and energy coming to the opposite conclusion. So that was my only.
I'll check the process. Actually, I'll have to check at some point tonight because we're about to get going. But I believe we have to have the public hearing after we have completed our deliberations. That way they know what we have voted on and therefore opine one way or the other. We can still make changes to the budget before the final vote on the final night.
Okay, that's how the process works, and we should follow the process. I'm just sharing my perspective, so I appreciate.
Oh yeah, this whole process, we're determining what our state revenue is before the state finishes their budget. Like it makes no sense whatsoever. Like we throw darts and hope that the state, is good at their word. And some years they haven't been. So, we just have to do the best we can with what we're given. But I will double check a little bit later. Always keep the charter handy. You never know. So before opening up the animal control, Mr. Jackson has some words for us regarding our actions last night.
Thank you for the opportunity. I know you have a long night. I told this council a couple of weeks ago that I have a certain standard, and it's a fairly high standard for the accuracy of the information that is delivered to you in your decision making. And I regret to inform you that that standard was not met yesterday, in my opinion. I believe that there are material defects in the items that were presented to you for the police concession agreement. And I would like to have the opportunity, perhaps on Tuesday, to put those into context. But they do have a direct, even though it's a separate item, it is related to item 12401-0150, holiday pay in the budget before you. So I would respectfully request of the council that you table or postpone that item until such time as the police concession agreement numbers can be put before you, which I hope to be able to send by opening of business tomorrow. Revalidated, revetted. My old man, Marion Jackson of blessed memory, said, if you make a mistake, you own up to it. I made a mistake, I'm owning up to it. And I'm going to get you what you need to make quality decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Jackson. We appreciate the honesty and appreciate you bringing that to us. And, as I said just a little while ago, let's gain some clarity here, figure out what we have to do. and what the problem is, what we have to do to fix it, and then get about fixing it. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you. If there are adjustments to the implications from the MOU, how are we, I mean, Director Jackson, I just want to confirm, because when you and I spoke, forgive me, I think it was earlier this week, you had said that many of the provisions from the MOU were already baked into the police budget. So how may we proceed forward, given that we're not able to accurately figure out a number of these lines? Also, there's
Well, it's not every line, it's that line.
oh, it's just the holiday pay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks.
And I am checking, I'm asking Attorney Grello and Gruen, and this is all kind of happening now, the past, like,
So I guess
Beth. So
you-
we're gonna, I've asked the attorneys to opine on if we have to do anything and what we would have to do to fix this. I don't know.
well, that was my other question. I don't know if Attorney Gruen is with us this evening, but if that invalidates our vote and we have to take another vote, does it, or is our vote upheld yesterday, or is there a new vote now because the council voted under pretenses that may not have been entirely faithful to the document?
The
And
initial,
I'm not blaming anybody here. It's just the fact.
the initial take right now is that I believe the MOU is correct, but the number's incorrect. But I don't want to misspeak. I don't
But
want
we voted based on those numbers.
to. Right.
We voted based on those numbers. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but the vote is going to have to happen. That we voted because of the numbers that were presented to us. That was the entire purpose of the vote. And so I understand that the only thing that's incorrect is holiday pay. But if we have to vote again and that number ends up being different so much so that it changes the outcome of our vote, that could also have implications on the 2 lieutenant positions. It can have implications on the other positions. It can have implications on all
Yes,
of the rest of the lines that were implicated.
Whatever the lawyers tell us we have to do is what we will do.
I'm just asking how we proceed forward this evening, given that there's several lines that we're not sure what the outcome is going to be. But I don't want to hold this up. We have a long conversation. There's definitely conversations we can have tonight. Just seems like there's a lot that we maybe can't or we'll have to have again.
Mr. Farmer?
Well, point of clarification, Councilman, but thank you, Council President, through you. So is there, I guess I didn't understand right. Is there amendment that's going to be made in the numbers, or is this a contingent on the numbers that we have? Like, does the MOU, is there anything that has to be modified in the MOU through you, Council President?
Mr. Jackson?
There is nothing in the MOU that needs to be changed. But we want to make sure that the 15 duly elected members of the Legislative Council have the most accurate information necessary to make those decisions. So there's the MOU, and the language is very specific. And then there were pieces of backup documentation, one of them being a spreadsheet. And it's that spreadsheet that is problematic.
Well, thank you, Director Jackson. Just a point of clarification. Who is the parliamentarian for tonight?
That would be Miss Gruen. If we need, I can contact her via phone or text.
Okay, thank you, through you, Chairman.
Ms. Bondi's?
Yes, thank you. We voted on the MOU. The MOU did not contain the exact numbers of the savings. So it was not in the language of the MOU doesn't change. We voted on the MOU, did not contain the numbers. We voted on the premise of those agreements. There was no numbers attached to them. So in my opinion, there is nothing to be changed. We voted on that. Director Jackson, would you mind me asking if the number is less savings or more savings? Where does that fall on the mistake?
It is less savings, but as you proceed through this budget, much of that actually comes back through an over budgeting of the holiday pay line. So without getting, which is why I would like to put the two in context. So the council can actually see that differential and understand it.
Right, so, okay, so by a lot, by 100,000, by I mean, what are we talking about? I mean, nobody voted on that number, I don't think, if this was.
Right. It's in rough figures, it's 300,000 less on the spreadsheet, but it gets back 160,000 in the budget. So it's a differential of 140,000. So that is to say, the number in the budget book that you're looking at tonight that I've asked to table is 320,000.
Mm-hmm.
But we really only need 158,000 based upon your action last night.
What should that number be instead of 320?
158.
Okay. Thank you.
Point of clarification, what part of our spreadsheet goes up then?
The
Or down rather?
the 640
640 goes down.
goes down to 482.
Okay, like
But I need to work overnight to validate that number. But those are rough numbers.
fair enough. Thank you.
You, Ms. Baez, Mr. McDowell.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I recognize that we voted on the language as it stood, and that's fair. Looking forward to getting some feedback from some attorneys. But the $1.7 million and the $600,000 of that is this coming fiscal year, those were why we voted. The whole point of concessions was cost savings. So if those calculations were incorrect and we voted under the pretense of those calculations, it's difficult to imagine, right? So I mean, we'll see what comes back.
I'm gonna get up here live.
But it would be very difficult to imagine that vote stands when the numbers that were given to us just weren't. I mean, the whole point of it was the numbers, and the numbers were wrong. So we have a lot to discuss tonight. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farmer.
Thank you. Through you, Council President. Yeah, I think we should reach out to the attorneys and get this sorted out soon. If the numbers are incorrect, not only did we not achieve the savings that we thought, but we also fell below the dictate that the administration set out, which is against.
Justin, I can't hear you at all. Can you please speak up?
I apologize. I hope, is this better?
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm a soft speaker. So I was saying that I don't think we've actually achieved the savings that we intended, which is against the whole spirit of the document. So I would love for us to get in contact with attorneys and get something to us as soon as possible. Hopefully before the weekend, as I know our co-counsel on this has the funeral for his mother-in-law, so I don't want to distract from their grieving process. Through you, Chairman.
Yeah, they are working on it. Like I said, you know, what they say to do is what we will do. Ms. Wetmore?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm a little concerned too. I mean, that was one of the big things that was proposed last night, and it kept being repeated that we were saving all this money, and I know we still are, but I'm a little concerned about it. I mean, it probably would not change my vote, but I think we really need to get to the root of this and get exact figures, because I was going by the amount that the consultant or the attorney was telling us. So I'm a little disappointed in the numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we all are. And it does seem like there's a variety of things that might have to happen. And like I said, we'll get our legal opinion. Ms. Bonadies.
Thank you. So using the numbers that Director Jackson just gave us, the difference between the 640 and the 320 is 320,000. The difference between the 482 and the 158 that he just gave us is 324,000. It's negligible. The agreement that was come to by the town and the police union was accurate, and it was presented accurately. The town flubbed a little bit, a teeny little bit on this number, does not invalidate that vote. I am going to stand by that. If this is some sort of an attempt to take another vote, this is farcical. This vote was taken fairly. It should stand. The numbers are a tiny bit off, going by what the numbers Director Jackson just gave us. So.
Okay, let's get Ms. Baez's thinking on this, and then we're arguing about something we don't have all our information yet. I get all information from Director Jackson, opinions from our attorney, opinions from our labor council, and obviously I'm for doing whatever is the right thing to do. And so I'm going to get advice from our council and make sure that what we do is both, legal and correct. And whatever that action is, that's the action we'll take. Ms. Baez, Councilor Baez.
Thank you through you, President McGarry. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much to Director Jackson for bringing this to our attention. I appreciate your truthfulness. I appreciate you going back and doubling back on the math after Councilwoman Dolan mentioned something about this backup here. I just want to say I'm very worried that we would go forward and be okay with having our name signed off on this MOU when we haven't dug deep enough as to what the real savings are. So I appreciate us wanting to stick by what we've done, but I really want to implore our legal team to figure out how this is still valid, even though we weren't operating on all the information, correct information. It's like, it's not just this number, but we needed those comparisons as to what we were saving versus what we're giving up here. And I just want to say these savings are not negligible. So thank you so much again, Director Scott Jackson. I appreciate your truthfulness and your thoroughness. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have more time to talk about this, and with a better informed conversation, hopefully, once we have a better feel for the fiscal implication and the legal implications. And so I eagerly wait for Ms. Gruen and Mr. Grello's input and Mr. Jackson's final calculations. With that, let's open up animal control. We'll start with animal control revenues. May I have a motion to approve the revenues for the animal control department?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. McDowell, sound like it was second by Ms. Lewis. A discussion on animal control revenues. Mr. Farmer. Council Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. Just a point of clarification. So you will be chairing the meetings instead of Councilor Caesar?
Council Caesar and Weber, just to kind of lessen the burden. And, police, I think, is going to be a lot longer.
So just to clarify, you will be doing all of public safety tonight through you,
No.
Chairman?
Animal control and traffic.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification through you, Chairman.
Discussion on revenues in the animal control department. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Revenues are passed. May I have a motion to approve the request for animal control positions?
So move.
Moved by
Second.
Mr. McDowell, seconded by Ms. Shoemaker. Chief, a quick question here. So there's an assistant animal control officer that's presently vacant, but funded. And there is an assistant animal control officer that seems to be a new position, but only funded at $15,000. Could you tell us what's up with that?
So the assistant animal control officer position was just filled just recently.
Okay.
And we're asking for a second assistant animal control officer. The main reasons for that is the amount of call volume that our animal control officer and divisions take. And we are in the process of trying to find a location to build our own animal control facility, which by general statute, we're supposed to have either our own or a regionalized one. Our team has been going out on tours recently to several locations to try and find a location for that building. And when we do either partner with someone or build our own facility, it would need to be maintained. And we think that we would need an increased number of animal control officers to man that facility.
Thank you, Chief. Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you. Chief, thank you for being here again tonight. If we have the assistant to the assistant animal control officer funded at 15,000, does that impact the need for overtime?
No, that wouldn't. That part-time officer would probably initially, before we build the facility, would probably help with overtime. Because currently with the two animal control officers, they're on call every other weekend.
Right.
And we recently lost one of our assistant animal control officer just because of that, because he had to work every other weekend. He left for a neighboring town to take the same exact job, I believe, for even less money.
So what I'm trying to get at is, is part of the intention of this part-time animal control officer to address that problem?
Yeah, initially it would save overtime, but when we did build our facility, it's going to take more people to staff that building.
Understand. So if I may, then we'll be talking about the overtime line, and the mayor did reduce the department request on that. So I just wanted to link that conversation to this. So you understand, we'll want to know if the mayor's recommendation is adequate to meet your needs on that. So thank you. That's all I have. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry. Through you, Council President, I was addressing the chief, of course. Thank you.
Yep. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you. So you said that we lost an assistant animal control officer to another town in the region for less money. Were we able to get any feedback why that individual might have taken another opportunity elsewhere despite the reduction in salary?
In his exit interview, he stated the fact that he had to work every other weekend and be on call was one of his main issues. And I believe one of his other concerns was some equipment that he was assigned, and that was his vehicle.
Okay, thank you for that feedback. Also, forgive me, I seem to be having some audio issues. I was able to get most of that answered, but I don't, if this was previously asked, the $15,000 at 40 hours, is that correct? Or I believe that was already asked, but I'm not sure if I got the answer.
Yes, it says 40 hours. So I'm assuming the mayor put that in as a part-time assistant animal control officer.
I'm
not
just
full-time.
wondering what that 40 hours should be.
Yeah, it would be part-time.
Right, I guess maybe that's a question for Director Jackson. I don't know what the mayor's intent was with that $15,000. How many hours could we get for that? If
Yes.
we leave it 40 hours in the budget, that's not a position we're gonna be able to hire for. We can't hire somebody for 40 hours for that wage. So it has to be accurately listed in the budget. If it's part-time, it can't say 40 hours.
That is correct. And so the intent was for that to be a part-time position, no more than 19 and a half hours. But the only line that is changed beyond the departmental submission is that last column that is the mayor. So, department justifications and things like that don't change, but it does get a little bit messy when he makes a change to the assistant animal control officer, because that is there's no spot for a justification of that.
No, I can understand that. I'm just asking what the hours should be. It can't be 40 or 50.
Not to exceed 19.5.
Does $15,000 get us 19.5, or would that, like, for a full year, or would that be a temporary position then?
It would be a
Seasonal?
It would be a part-time position, not to exceed 19.5 in any given week.
No, I understand that, but I don't, so 19, let me do this, 19.5. What's the
Councilman
going rate?
McDowell,
So there would be an hourly rate attached to that. But one of the vagaries of animal control, as Chief Sullivan said, is that, there's the on-call, there's the weekends. It's the schedule is a little bit more flexed than, say, if you were working at government center.
I completely understand. If you do the math, $15,000, 52 weeks, you divide that by 19.5 hours, that brings you to $1,479, which is, I don't know, can we hire somebody at that rate for that position? So it would be a seasonal, I think, Chief, you said you were gonna add something to that. Is that?
Yeah, we would most likely utilize them on the weekends to give the other full-time positions a break, so they wouldn't have to be on call on the weekends. So Director Jackson stated, 19 and a half hours wouldn't always be 19 and a half hours.
Okay, so that's
that
okay.
would be the maximum.
So Director Jackson, if you can clarify in the budget, if we put 19.5 hours, it doesn't mean that individual will be scheduled for 19.5 hours. It just means that won't exceed that in any given week.
That is correct.
Cool. Thank you very much for that clarification. I want to make a motion to reduce that position from 40 to 19.5 hours.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, the motion is to alter the second assistant animal control officer from 40 hours to 19. Discussion. There's hands up, but I believe they are for the positions in general. Any discussion on changing it from 40 to 19? Seeing none, Ms. Bondi's and Ms. Wetmore. Ms. Bondi's?
I believe Ms. Whitmore had her hand up before me.
Very nice. Counselor Wetmore?
That's okay, Marjorie, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Ms. Whitmore. If the position is 19 and a half, and the pay is 15,000, that doesn't necessarily comport with other 19 and a half hour positions that are getting 32.5. So I'm just putting that out there because that's kind of something we discussed in previous budgets. So that's needs to be thought about.
Can I answer to that to clarify the intent of the motion?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. So it won't be 19 and a half hours every week. It wouldn't exceed 19.5 hours. So the wage would be higher hourly. The hourly wage will be higher because it won't be 19 and a half hours every week. I don't know if that clarifies. Is that helpful or does that not?
I think that does help. We're looking at a weekend position, essentially, part-time weekender. Ms. Wetmore?
Thank you, Mr. President. It's also, and I don't want to forget this, that's why I'm bringing it up. It also says in the regular salaries that it's a 40-hour person. So I hope everybody will remember to change that when we get to expenditures. And take out what money was included in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Farmer?
Thank you, Council President, through you. I guess I have two thoughts. One being that parity is not necessarily a thing between department to department. So I remind us of that, that different departments are different department. What we do as past practice isn't necessarily something that is legally bonding. The second thing that I would say is, I guess, the chief, through you, Council President, to the chief, from my understanding, you said these positions would free up the full-time staffers from working weekends.
Thank you, Councilman Farmer. Yeah, every other weekend, the two full-timers are on call. So when we do get a call out, they come in for overtime. So one, it would relieve them from having to work every other weekend on call, and it also would hopefully save on some overtime.
Could you speak to the potentiality of saving on overtime? Because looking at the other items, I can't really guesstimate out how much it actually costs. Like how much are we actually going over? Because the two line items in the expenditures equate to $10,000. So how much money do we intend to save by these hiring of these positions through you, Council President?
It varies by year. The call outs vary by years. So it would be dependent upon a lot of factors. I couldn't tell you what the overtime would be saved from year to year.
Could you give me a estimation or the estimation that your department as well as administration use to come up with warranting this position through you, Council President?
Well, the secondary factor was the overtime. The more important factor for the added position was the establishment of a facility. That's the main reason for adding the position. Once we establish a facility, we're going to need to staff it. And with just two people, I don't think we'd be able to staff it. Through the tours that we have done from the other facilities, they have much more than 3 staffers. A lot of them have volunteers that help out. So that, 3 would be an ultimate minimum, and that would be with the hope that we would be able to get some volunteers and also staffing a facility.
Just a point of clarification before going to my colleague at large. So currently there's one employee working in animal control, or how many employees are actively working in animal control right now?
Currently, we have two. We just hired the new assistant animal control officer that replaced the assistant animal control officer that just recently left.
Okay, when did we, so we recently hired, so that went out through civil service and everything and went through the whole entire process?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna I'm gonna give up my time and allow my colleagues to ask more questions.
Thank you. Counselor Farmer, Counselor Roe Lewis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. President. May I ask a couple of questions to Chief Sutherland, please?
Mhm.
Okay. Good evening, Chief. How are you today?
Good evening, council member. Bro.
Good. I'm going to ask a couple of questions as it relates to staffing of the two individuals that you do have as it stands right now. Does these two individuals work the same shift?
Yes, they currently work the same shift, and the new officer is somewhat still in training.
Okay, so it's based on training why they are working the same shift, or this is what they will be working permanently?
That's what they work permanently, but currently the new assistant is still being trained.
Okay. I heard something to the fact that someone left based on the fact that they had to work weekends.
They were on call every other weekend, yes.
Every other weekends. I'm kind of saddened by that, since we have nurses in the United States who work every weekend or every other weekend. And they are really essential. PCAs, surgical techs, teachers, doctors, they work, that any job is better than anything. But at the same time, I've worked weekends and my children do the same. So I'm saddened that someone left a job based on the fact that they had to work weekends. But I am going to put this out there. I think we don't have to hire a third person. We can restructure how they are scheduled after the training process is over. We can do a Sunday through Thursday and a Tuesday through Saturday, and every single day is covered. I am in support of making sure that when we do build a facility, we have enough individual to cover that. But I think it's at that time. I don't think it's now. I think it's when we get there, we can have a lot of, I know we will have a ton of individuals who are volunteers, but I also think at that time we'll be able to get different individuals to come on board, but I don't think it's now. But I think one of the biggest problem I think we're having as it relates to overtime is not necessarily with, we don't know what we're doing, but we're not scheduling correctly, because if we schedule correctly, we will have every single shift covered, every day covered. And there are individuals out there who are happy to work the overtime shift or the weekend shift. They have no problems with that. So we have to kind of start thinking differently, because how government was set up to run a long time ago, I think we have moved away from that and making it so that individuals can really tell us what they want, and we are not doing things as it relates to our constituents. And I think we have to first remember that, because they're the ones who are dishing out for us as well. So very supportive of a lot of things that we're doing, but for this, I think we need to restructure how individuals work, because I should not be driving and see two individuals in the same van on a day that they're working. I should basically be able, one person supposed to be able to do the job and get going. But that's just my 2 cents.
To address that, and I have
Yes,
my
sir.
staff checking right now. Since I've been here, they've worked the same shift, the same hours. They're gonna check if that's a contractual reason why they do that. So we'll look into that matter. And to just give you, some staffing at other towns that are similar to Hamden. Milford has 4 animal control officers. Brantford has 10 animal control officers. Stratford has 5. Meriden has 4. Wallingford has 4, and Fairfield has 5. Those are all similar populations to ourselves, with obviously a lot more staffing, and I believe they all have facilities, and that's
Thank
partially why.
Thanks. Mr. Chair, Mr. President, can I answer or talk to?
Of course, yes.
Sure. Thank you, Chief, for doing that stats for us. But I want to tell you that those towns are in so much better position as it relates to money than what Hamden is. And so they can buy 10 beer, we can only get a half a cup. And so at this time, we have to be careful how we compare ourselves to other towns based on the fact that we are unable to afford more officers. And so what do we do? You know, so we have to look into the small basket that we have and make a decision as to what we keep and what we cannot even think of whatsoever. And I think we have to develop a new thinking to say, does this work or doesn't it work? Is it something that we continue to do because it's always okay? We have to now think differently and how we can make better decision as it relates to the town itself. Thank you. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Just one more factor into the increase in the number of animal control officers. When we did the tours and we spoke to the heads of those facilities, they said that one of the mistakes they made in the beginning, prior to getting where they were in a successful facility, was they didn't staff it properly and they lost a lot of animals. So that was my main concern of projecting, looking to increase the amount of officers to properly staff a facility, so we don't fall into that same trap where we possibly could lose the lives of animals through a mistake of not having it staffed properly. But that factored into my decision, just so you know.
Okay, I appreciate it. Dolores Giannini, that passed away several years ago, spearheaded a fundraiser for Hamden and a group. She lived on, oh gosh, don't remember right now, but she lived in Southern Hamden. Is that Helen Street?
Helen Street.
Helen Street.
42 Helen.
Yes, right next to the bank that is now going to be closed. She developed a group of volunteers and also fundraised for a shelter. So there's a lot of work that has gone into building a shelter. And I understand that, you know, individuals have made mistakes along the way. But I think the structure that Councilwoman at Large Bonadies has worked on, along with a group, again, the Dolores Giannini of the world of Hamden, they will make sure that we don't fall into the pits and the traps that we fell in, that individuals fell into in other towns. When the dog park was being built, I don't know if everyone knows how much it cost the town of Hamden to build that dog park. Scott, it cost $20,000 to build when it built. So we need to know that we can do things, and everybody said it was not going to happen. We were not going to be able to build a dog park for that money, and we did. So I believe in Hamden, and I think if we structure well, I think we will be successful.
And two more things, Councilwoman. That is contractual, their shifts. So that is in the contract. We just looked that up. And we do have monies allotted for the building, and we do have an active fundraising fund that is going. And through our tours, we are partnering with other facilities that are going to help us in fundraising events for the town of Hamden as well. So we're looking to do that.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm set. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roy Lewis. Councilor Bonadies.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Chief Sullivan, for saying that there are still very active fundraising going on for the animal shelter. I have a question for you about the facilities that you toured. Were there groups of volunteers allowed to put in time for volunteering to help with animals? The reason I'm asking is because I don't know about the liability of having volunteers and having potential bites and whatnot. I just wanted to know what the places that you toured did with regards to volunteers, or do we need a trained, animal control officer in there at all times, 24/7, to cover the overnights or off hours? Could you just speak to that a little bit? Thank you.
Each one of the facilities had volunteers, numerous volunteers. I don't know how they went about the liability. I didn't ask that. I probably should have. And they also received the facilities pretty much all of their food, all of their cleaning, because they're at each facility we're at, they were doing laundry every minute that we were there. But everything was donated: detergent, food. They had extensive volunteers and fundraising at all these facilities. So if we did get a facility, or best case, if we can partner with one of these facilities already, that would help us out tremendously, especially with staffing. It's already in place. So we are working on a few different ventures to see what works best for us and is the most fiscally sound and smart way for us to get a facility, which we need, which we are not in compliance with state law on that, and haven't been for a long time.
You muted, Councilor Bonadies.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Did you look at the cost of the part-time help, bringing in part-time help versus overtime of the two existing positions? Is there a savings there with the part-time help?
We're hoping to save on some of the call-in costs on the weekends, and that's probably the hours that we would have that particular part-time officer work. Like I said, the other positions are contractual Monday through Friday.
Okay.
So we would cover some nighttime shifts, we would cover some weekend shifts, and then hopefully that would help with overtime.
So the overtime history in this department is about 10,000 a year on average, 9, 8, 14, 10, 4. Just looking back over the last 4 years. Love to see with some part-time help that number go down, if that is the case. So I just would like to see a little bit of a financial look at what's the better deal: part-time help, paying overtime. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bonadies. Councilor Farmer. Councilor Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. Chief, through you, Council President, to the chief, can you clarify a couple of things for us? You said that the contract dictates that we have 2 people working. Is the animal control contract part of the policing contract, or is it a separate contract? And then what is the reasoning and rationale behind having two people work through you, Council President?
That is a separate contract. The animal control is a complete separate contract from the police. And those shifts were negotiated way before my time. And I'm not sure when that contract is up. I'll have to take a look. I deal with several contracts. I have the police contract, I have the crossing guard contracts, ACO contracts, and the traffic division contracts. And then the dispatcher central communication contracts.
Well, that is understandable. Is it possible to forward us those contracts by Monday or Tuesday so that we can have those things to refer and have a better understanding? Is that something that would seem reasonable?
Yeah, all the contracts of the town are available at all times. But yeah, we can make sure you get a copy of that contract.
Well, I was hoping that you would also get rationale to why. So I'll read the contracts, but if you know, it's your department, so if you have additional information to share with us, that would help us understand. I guess my other question that I had for you and the counselor at large, all well stated points, and I do agree with them that we should move to staggering the positions if that's something that we can make possible. What happens if we have a situation where we need more than one animal control officer? What do we do?
Well, if we have only one on and the other one's off, they'll come in on overtime. If there's no one available in town, we will call out of town. Usually we've used North Haven to assist us when we need more personnel. That's usually the way we do it.
Okay, so and at what rate is that mutual aid? I'm guessing there's some type of MOU for that, because I'm guessing there's situations with bears or other things where you probably might need more than two people to wrangle an animal or creature. So if you could forward us that information as well, at what rates we're paying when we hire on other people and how often we're using resources from other communities, that would be helpful, as well as the MOU. I will email you now so that all those things are fresh. But if all those things could get to us by Tuesday, I think it would help us understand what we're going through with animal control through you, Chairman.
If we do use an out of town ACO, we don't pay them. I'm assuming that's covered under mutual aid, but we don't pay them any monies.
Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilor Farmer. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you. Chief, I heard you mention that there was some loss of life from animals due to scheduling. I'm wondering if you could help us understand how that came to be. Were there animals that weren't cared for in the facilities, or were there situations that weren't able to be responded to?
I don't know the exact situations. I'd have to reach out to the animal control officers that we spoke to. I know some of them were weather related and they weren't able to get personnel there. There was some electricity loss and they weren't able to get people there. So there were a lot of them are weather related stuff that they said caused it and they weren't able to get personnel in there. So I'd have to ask them specifically, but they did mention that.
Okay, thank you. If we could maybe get some more information on that, it'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McDowell. Councilor Baez.
I just want to say that judging from the year-to-year overtime expense being under 14,000, I think that paying for another person to mitigate some of the overtime is not doesn't balance out well. So that that $5,000 in our overtime line is negligible compared to other costs that we're okay with. I also want to say that would be happy to fully staff a building when it's built. Until then, I would like to figure out how to make sure that we have the hours we need filled with the folks we have. But once the building is built, then we'll need to staff it. But until then, I think we can hold off a little bit.
Thank you, Ms. Bias. Mr. McDowell.
It seems like the will of the council is to go a different direction on this. I don't want to waste any time. Should I withdraw my motion, or would somebody like to make a friendly to my motion? Whatever you all think would move this smoother.
Councilor Farmer.
If you would accept a friendly, Councilor McDowell, I'd like to make a friendly to zero out this line. Then as the year goes along, if we do get a facility, then we have the ability to fill this line.
Sure. Is the intent of your friendly, through you, Mr. President, is the intent of your friendly to keep this as a part-time position, zero funded for this year, or would you like to see a 40-hour position full-time? 19.5?
I would say a part-time. I think that it's possible to get a volunteer basis and other things set up. So I would say part-time.
So keeping the motion at 19.5, but amending friendly to zero funded. I would accept that friendly. I'll accept that.
Okay, so the motion on the floor now is to zero fund the assistant animal control officer at 19 hours, but maintain the position in the budget. Counselor.
I'm so sorry, 19.5.
19.5. Counselor Horsley.
I will not be supporting this motion as I don't believe that we need to not support what the experts that are involved in making decisions about the animal control. The contracts require certain staffing that we can't control until we change the contracts. And so I won't be supporting this tonight.
Thank you, Counselor Horsley. Further discussion? Just as a reminder, the present motion on the floor is to zero fund the assistant animal control officer position at 19.5 hours, but to maintain it in the budget. Ms. Bias.
Just a point of clarification, or I guess I'm asking a question. Did the contract say that we needed a third person? Is that what the contract said? I didn't think we got information on that yet.
The collective bargaining agreement contract?
It says we need 3 animal control people?
No, it does not.
Oh, thanks for the clarification.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Oh, as the seconder of the motion, Ms. Baez. Actually, I have down that Ms. Shoemaker, or no, that was the whole thing. Ms. Baez, do you accept the second?
I accept.
Or I should say the friendly as the second. Thank you. All right, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Four in opposition? Abstentions? All right, the motion fails. I'm sorry, the motion passes. The line has been zeroed out. Now we are back to the original motion, which would be on the animal control positions.
Excuse me, what was the vote, please?
The item passed, so the animal control officer line has been altered to
What
19
was the vote count,
hours,
please?
0 funded.
Or opposed.
And there were
Vote
4 in
count.
opposition.
What was the number that was passed? Looking for
How many of us?
Yays versus nays, please.
9 versus 4.
Thank you.
We are on now the animal control positions. Further discussion on the animal control positions. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor of the animal control positions as amended, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
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 Opposed? I see 3 in opposition. Abstentions? All right, motion passes. The positions have been approved as amended. We will now move to animal control expenses. May I have a motion to approve the animal control expenses?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Horsley, seconded by Mr. McDowell. Mr. McDowell?
Thank you very much. I'm curious if we've been able to quantify how much it is costing us not to have an animal control facility. I recognize that, you know, we have certainly quantified how much it costs to kennel the animals that we need to kennel, and obviously care for those animals and all that. I suppose, and I believe, Chief, if you can confirm, our contract with North Haven does soon come up for renegotiation. Is that right?
The MOU is expires on June 30th. I know that we're if they haven't already approved for another year, they're in the process of doing that right now.
Can we expect increases from that, or will the rate stay the same?
I think the rate was the same, but I can find that out for you.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind just letting us know. That way, if we do have to go back and make any quick
Absolutely.
tweaks, we can do that at the end here. And I guess my other going back to my original question, I was curious if we've at all been able to quantify the other expenses to not having a facility in town. Specifically, right, the hours of labor that are spent commuting to other communities, and also the wear and tear and extra maintenance that needs to happen on vehicles, as well as the additional use of fuel. I think that is a big portion of the expense that has gone. I think we haven't recognized that expense to commuting to other communities. I mean, it's not so bad for North Haven. It's you know, maybe we're at most doubling the miles there, but when we go to other communities, we're tripling or almost quadrupling if we're talking about somewhere like West Haven, which means that we have to do 4 times as much maintenance. Wear and tear on the vehicles is 4 times as quick, and obviously that much more fuel as well. Have we ever quantified that, or can you give an estimate based on the mileage on the vehicles, which you were already explaining, or is that something we don't have?
We don't have that quantified, but that there is definitely a savings now that we're back in North Haven, not only in the mileage, in the gas and the time and the wear and tear on our equipment, but also what we were paying per animal to be stored was sometimes a quarter of what we were paying at other places.
Thank you. And the last question I have on that matter is, have we been able to use North Haven for like exclusively at this point, or has there been overflow? Have we had to use other facilities as well?
I don't think we've had any overflow since we've been back in North Haven.
Okay.
We did have some assistance from Branford on a couple cases that they helped us out voluntarily with some animals that needed care, which saved the town a lot of money, but they volunteered to help us out.
It's nice of them to do that. I hope you can express our gratitude. Thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you, Councilor McDowell. Councilor Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, to the chief. I guess my question for you, in the overtime, the department requested $10,000, but the mayor approved 5,000. So could you speak to that?
I think he came down on that line item, thinking that we would have some savings from having that part-time position.
Okay, could you, I understand we had some pretty, from my understanding, we'd have some pretty significant savings as we are not sheltering certain animals anymore. So is this level of overtime needed, seeing that we no longer have certain obligations?
I think we changed our policy for a short time because we only had one animal control officer. So we reduced the amount of calls that we were able to handle with just the one officer. With the second officer being hired, we probably will implement back some of the calls that we weren't able to take back at that time.
So
And that-
can you clarify? So statutorily, we have to deal with certain issues. So were we not responding to calls? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, all the statutorily calls we would take, there were some cases that go that we would go beyond to help.
Okay. 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 I want to make sure we're in compliance with the law. So
Yes,
that's
yes,
good
we are.
to know. The only last question I'll have is advertising. It was at 0 last year, and it's at 1,000 this year. So, could you speak to why there's a need for more advertising?
I think it's by state statute. We have to advertise when it comes to adoptions. And I think we hadn't done it in certain circumstances, and it was pointed out to us.
Okay.
And the other thing we've tried to do is a free thing that we use is social media, and we use that as well.
So, Chief, does it have to be in a newspaper or something? Like what are the specifications on advertising?
I believe it specifies that you're supposed to put it in the newspaper.
Okay,
And Councilwoman Bondi's may know better than me, but I think that's the case.
Councilwoman,
It's actually in the budget. It explains where it needs to be published. It's
Yeah.
right there in your budget.
well, I was gonna ask Councilwoman Bonadies, if you could speak to the publication, because are we using, like, what vendor are we using to do the publication?
If you're asking me what newspaper, it just says a local newspaper. That they have to publish that for animals that were impounded in the lost and found section of a local newspaper in an attempt to locate the owner, and that is by state statute.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I read that and I understood that. I guess my confusion is because we haven't done it, I wanted to get an understanding, was that an appropriate amount of money?
That goes to
Chief, could you give us insight on, is this an appropriate amount of money?
My understanding is that we would use the Hamden Journal, and the 1,000 should cover it for the year.
Okay, well, I appreciate you sharing this with us and being on top of this. Through you, Chairman, or Council President.
Thank you. And Counselor Horsley, and I'm sorry, Counselor Horsley, I should have asked you as the maker of the motion to go first. But,
Okay, so I just have a couple of questions. Since we just zeroed out the assistant animal control person, do we need to increase overtime through you, Chief Sullivan? Or I mean, through you, Council President, to Chief Sullivan?
I was hoping you're going to ask that question. Yeah, I would hope maybe we could reinstate it back to the original 10,000 that we had put in there.
Okay, and my other question is about the mayor's budget for the land building rental is 25,000 less than what you requested. Is there a rationale that makes sense to you about that reduction?
Well, I think he's hoping that the savings that we got from going to North Haven could be one of the reasons. And hopefully at some point in time during the year, we'll have our own facility and we won't need that line item for the whole year. Just depends on how quickly we can move on either partnering or building our own.
Right. I guess if I could ask through the council president, whether we are on track to, in the next 365 days from July, have our own facility.
If I may respond to that, the establishment of an animal control facility is obviously subject to statutory review. I think it would be unlikely within the next 365 days, although we can probably get fairly close. But the answer to your question, Councilor Horsley, is really it's the expectation of savings going back to North Haven. That's the primary driver.
Okay, and so there must be a rate that we pay that to use that facility, and isn't that understood? Is that $75,000 for a year or $100,000 for a year?
I think it's per day. We pay, I believe it's $15 per day per animal. So it would be based on the amount of animals that we take in and we have housed there.
Can I give you a point of information for the last 3-year actuals?
Yes, that would be helpful. Thank you.
32,746, 32,746, 27,886, 34,805, and then finally the 1920 actual, which was 55.
Okay, great. That was very helpful. Thank you, Councilor Baez. So I'd like to make a motion that we increase the overtime from 5,000 to 10,000. So this is line 123010130.
Second. Second. Give it to Austin.
all right, so the motion on the floor is to increase the overtime line from $5,000 to $10,000, moved by Councilor Horsley, seconded by Councilor Caesar. I'm going to, hold on one second, to make sure I have hands recorded. And put hands down. And if anyone has something on this motion, please raise your hand. Mr. Farmer?
Thank you, Council President. I guess my question, I guess it's not really a question, it's a statement. We financially are in a situation where we unfortunately can't go above and beyond. So if we are reaching our legal requirements of what we must do statutorily, I think that's financially where we are. And I think if there are certain situations that arise that the chief can come back to us, I guess I'm not so much fighting the $5,000 because it's not a crazy amount of money, but I do want to get an understanding and will of the council of if this line item goes above the 10, at what point do we have a cutoff through you, Council President?
There's the motion on the floor is to increase the overtime line to 10,000. If it goes over, it goes over. That's why we have emergency and contingency.
Cool. Great.
We could hire that other guy and have less overtime. I don't know. We decided not to do that.
I guess then I will be voting no on this. If we were going to hit that $10,000 ceiling, that'd be one thing. But our finances, we can't afford to go above and beyond in many sectors of what we provide in services in town right now. And it's unfortunate. So I
Well,
can't
we're
support this.
contractually obligated to pay overtime if it is lawfully worked. So if it goes over 10,000, there's no ceiling. If folks get overtime lawfully, then we have to pay it by the contract.
Correct. So let's not encourage it. Thank you, Council President. Through you, Chairman.
Further discussion on the motion to increase the overtime line 02120 from $5,000 to $10,000. I will be supporting this. It seems like a sensible move if it was based upon it's clearly over in the past few years. If we need it, we need it. And we didn't put the other person in there, so it looks like we're going to need it. Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Abstentions? All right, item passes with one in opposition. We are back to the motion discussing expenses in the animal control department. Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have a clarifying question about temporary wages. Under what circumstances do temporary wages kick in? If the chief could advise us on that, please.
I'll get that information for you at a later time. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's just I've noticed that that doesn't seem to be expended. But it keeps being in the budget, but it doesn't seem like we're incurring that expense. So I just wondered what the conditions would be under which that would kick in.
I can find that out for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the animal control expense lines. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Bias.
Thank you. Because we cut that one position, I just wanted to drop down. I have a motion for 3 lines, but I'm just gonna bundle the 2 because we dropped the position. So professional and tech services has training for 3 people, or an additional person rather. So I'm gonna say I'm making a motion to drop that down to 250, and then uniform stipend allowance down to 1,300 because we're not having an extra person. So that's my motion. Thanks. I should have saved my discussion for after. I'm sorry.
All right, so the motion is to reduce line 0673 uniform stipend allowance. And what was the other one?
And the other one was professional and technical 0590. I'm going with the historical top number, which is 250.
Thank you. Moved by Ms. Baez, and that was seconded, I believe, by Mr. McDowell. Further discussion, Ms. Shoemaker.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking at those lines too. So if the training is per capita and we're budgeted for 3 and we'll go down to 2, was the motion to go to 500, or what was the motion to go to for professional tech?
250. The prices for the past years, $75, $250, $55, and then 1920 actual was $155.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha. So we're going to 250 on that? Okay. And then on the stipend and now on the uniform stipend, I'm confused about the actuals on that. We had 2 employees in fiscal year 20, and they used 1150. So we're going down to what, to 1300 on that?
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, good. I'm clear. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
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 Opposed? I see 1 in opposition. Abstentions?
I believe Ms. Whitmore was also in opposition.
Oh, thank you. Ms. Weber, you're in opposition?
Yes.
Thank you. 2 in opposition? All right.
Yes.
Passes. Those lines have been amended. Further discussion on the animal.
I had another motion.
I'm sorry?
I had one more motion.
Please continue, Councilor Bias.
Okay, so I was looking, this one is a motion to make the land buildings rental $35,000 instead of the mayor's proposed $75,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
As
the maker of the motion, Ms. Byers, would you like to speak to it?
Yes. Okay. So I was looking at the historical numbers. It's at 32,000, 27,000, 34,000. And then last year we have a high of 55. Because we're going back to North Haven, we should find some cost savings and go back to our old averages that we have here. So it should be at around the high number that we used to have, which is 35,000. I looked at the actuals. It didn't seem, it seemed like we should be going downward now.
Doesn't have the actual 1920 at 50. Oh, that's for the more higher costs. Councilor Farmer?
Yeah, once again, seeing that we don't have certain animals in our custody anymore, I think a lot of these costs will be going down and that we won't be incurring as much overtime and other expenses. So I think this is a prudent move, and I thank Councilwoman Bias for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. Councilor Shoemaker?
Thank you. I too appreciate looking at this line. Do we have an updated year to date on that we could see for the land buildings rental 12317-0552? And while you're looking at that, Mr. Jackson, Chief, were you able to find anything on the temporary wages or?
My staff are looking that up right now in the contract.
Okay.
And I believe the year-to-date expenditures as of March was 28,694.
Okay, so you do have year-to-date expenses. Oh, are you talking now about the land buildings rental?
Yeah, is that what you're asking for?
Yeah.
Yep. Looks like it was 28,694.
Oh, the book says that's through March, so we haven't incurred any more expenses.
No, that was through March, because that's when we had done this spreadsheet for the
Yeah.
mayor's office.
So I'm just seeing if Mr. Jackson can see if that's gone up.
I'm sure it's gone up. I just don't know how much.
Yeah, I wanted to get a read on it.
Current actuals, $50,074.50. Encumbrances of 15,054.61. So those would be POs issued in advance of expenditures.
Expenditures plus encumbrances, what's that add up to?
That's 66,000.
Okay. That sort of suggests that as the weather is warming, we're having a higher activity there. So what's the proposed amount to amend to, Ms. Bias?
I propose the high that we used to have with North Haven. Can you say that number again, Director Jackson?
Absolutely. It's the actuals, $50,074.50.
And what did you say about POs that are outstanding, but we have not incurred it yet?
Encumbrances, yeah.
The encumbrances, that's 15,000.
And we expect to incur that within 1 month of the fiscal year closing?
Before the end of the POs go sour at the end of the year. So they would either be liquidated or utilized by June 30th.
They might be liquidated though.
They might be.
That seems weird.
So there are looking at the detail. There are it's predominantly North Haven. There are some animal hospital items in here as well. So it appears that so if an animal is injured, it may very well go to an animal hospital, as well as simply being kenneled.
Yeah.
At an animal control facility.
Yeah. You're muted, Dominic.
Reading out loud. Just don't worry
Sorry.
about it. Taking in all the information.
Yeah.
Councilwoman Shoemaker, I got a little clarification for you on that line item for the.
Okay, yeah, Chief, thank you. We'll be right back to that, but I think we're wrestling this land buildings rental line right now. I'm concerned about the amendment, of course, and I think I have to vote against it, and maybe we need to stick with the 75, but that's what it sounds like to me. I don't know if Ms. Baez wants to amend her motion. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. That's what it sounds like to me. Thank you. I'll get back to that other line, Chief.
I think the increase that we're talking about from the land, why it was so high, we did have a few cases this year, one recently with about 200 cats. And I believe that could be probably where that increase is coming from, I think. And the temporary wages was, that's used for per diem to hire consultants or part-time. And that's what that line item was in there for in the past. And it was still in there now.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to reduce the land buildings rental. I would just say, I don't think I'm going to be able to support this one because you never know when you're going to find 200 cats around. So I think it's best just to have a little bit of wiggle room here, just in case, something shows up. Councilor Farmer.
Thank you, Council President. Through you, I guess in the extreme circumstances of having many cats, what would we do in those situations? I'm guessing we did not pay for the whole entire cost to house all those cats, feed them, medical bills, so on and so forth. So is that true, Chief?
What we did that day was a pretty big operation. There was numerous animal control officers throughout the state that assisted with us. So yeah, I don't believe we incurred all the costs to it, luckily, but we did get a lot of assistance from other ACOs throughout the state.
And I would assume, Chief, through you, Council President, that that volunteers of those organizations and so forth would either come up with raising funds to take care of those animals or help in other ways to mitigate costs through you, Council President.
Yeah, I believe there are some organizations that did assist with that. I believe you are correct.
Okay, great. I don't think I think that's too big of a safety net, so I'll let conversation continue.
And Councilor Baez.
President McGarry, I was going to say I am going to keep it at 35,000, exactly for the opposite. I don't think we're going to stumble upon another 200 cats. Well, at least I really dearly hope that we do not. For the time being, I think that is also something that we would call emergency. And that's why we're putting some extra money inside things like your $5,000 temporary wages and things like that, that you'll be able to move around. So I'm going to stick to 35 because this 200 cats is quite an anomaly. And we do, and 34,805 was the previous high when we were working with North Haven. So I'm going to stick with what it is when we work with North Haven, which we are. So until we build a building, I'm going to stick with my my original motion.
And Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you. I understand that logic. I'm also aware that a lot more people have gotten pets during the pandemic. And I'm really concerned now that the weather is warming, that people who maybe aren't used to having pets are going to have problems with taking them outside and not knowing what to do with them. And I'm just concerned about that. So, and there might be, yeah. So I would like to support this, but I think it's too low. So I'll be voting against it, but I get the logic. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to reduce line 0582 land buildings and rentals. Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, please indicate by saying or showing aye.
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 Opposed?
I only saw 3 in favor.
All right, so 7 opposed, 3 in favor, the motion fails.
Can we get a roll call on that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask the same.
We just recorded the vote. It was 3-7.
I saw some members not vote, and I'm not sure if that was not voting or abstentions or.
Yeah, let's have a roll call.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second. Okay, Councilman Alston,
Could you recite, please? Could you recite the motion, please? It's on the floor. To make sure I understood it, because I think I got things twisted here.
decreasing line 0552 land buildings rental from 75,000 down to 35,000.
Yeah, I'm okay. Yes.
Councilwoman Byatt,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bonadies,
No.
Councilman Caesar,
No.
Councilwoman Klaus,
No.
They would have called me and let me know.
Councilman Farmer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Gary,
No.
Gary, not Mick Gary.
Oh, 2 nights in a row. I'm sorry, Councilor Athena.
Can you tell me what we're voting on? 'Cause I
We are
couldn't-
going to reduce the land building rental line from 75,000 to 35,000. You mute it.
Yes. Councilwoman Horsley,
No.
Councilman McDowell,
Yes.
President McGarry,
Now, okay, no.
Councilwoman Rowe Lewis,
No.
Councilwoman Shoemaker,
No.
Councilman Weber,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wetmore.
No.
Six in favor, 8 opposed. Failed.
Okay, we are back to the expenses for the Animal Control Department. For discussion. Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote to approve. Oh, there we go. I'm sorry, Councilor Shoemaker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to go back to that temporary wages line for a minute. Chief, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to think about the 2 lines at the same time. So the temporary wages come in when you need, what did you say? Consultation?
Yeah, we actually, per diem, we want to, it's been in there and I don't think they've ever used it, but we plan on getting some assistance from some of the animal control officers that we've toured. They were going to help us with fundraising, training, and our website as well. But that was the plan with that money. So be for a consultant.
When was the last time you spent money in that line?
I don't think we've ever spent money in that line that I know of. And we came up with the idea to use that when we did some of the tours and we spoke to some of the animal control officers from the other towns and what they're doing. And mainly it was for fundraising.
Okay, and I assume you're planning a fundraising effort this year to get our Hamden Animal Shelter rolling.
Correct. We get donations for the facility. We also do get some donations for the care that we give to the animals. The line item we were just talking about, I believe that the case with the cats, I believe, cost us about $12,000. We're trying to recover some monies through I think the victim advocate, and I think that case is going to court very soon. Maybe
Okay,
tomorrow.
thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you. I have nothing further.
Further discussion on the animal control expenditures. Okay, seeing now, I'll call for a vote on the expenses as amended. All in favor of the animal control expenses as amended, please indicate by saying or showing aye. Aye. Opposed? Those in opposition? Did I freeze?
Looking unanimous to me.
Okay, passes unanimously. And that sort of does it for our animal control. Councilor Caesar has joined us after his obligations, and Councilor Caesar, traffic is up next, and that, sir, is you. And traffic is page 199 of the budget.
Give me 30 seconds, please.
Thank you. Certainly.
Okay. I just got in, so I apologize.
Understandable, Councilor Caesar. I hope it
Page
was.
30. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The traffic department's page what?
199.
199. Thank you. Give me 1 second. My book out. So I'm going to make a motion to.
And there are no revenues. We can go straight to positions if you'd like.
Right. I'll make a motion to approve the mayor's recommended positions for the department.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on? Oh, sorry. Make a motion second. All in favor? Or sorry, actually, I'm sorry. We do discussion first. I apologize. Discussion on the item. Chair recognizes Councilperson Farmer.
Thank you, Chairperson, Chairman. Through you to the chief, I guess my only question in terms of your thought process, are these two positions enough to handle all the traffic needs and concerns for the town? Through you, Chairperson.
I believe they feel like they're understaffed in that division. I can tell you from myself, working with them and our team at the Traffic Authority, we're extremely busy. Our agendas are full packed. Our community members are very interested and cognizant of traffic calming measures and traffic issues. It's a big topic here in the town of Hamden. So I work closely with them and there is a large workload in that division.
Thank you, Chief. I think more work needs to be done to figure out what to do with the traffic department. I we are a city, we're Ring City, right? I think we need to seriously come up with a plan to figure out what our long-term goals are for traffic, as well as look at our plan of conservation and kind of look at that to see, use that, pun intended, as a roadmap. Um, I'm gonna let conversation continue. I was gonna make a motion to put in a zeroed position, but maybe we just need to have this conversation and think through it. So thank you, Chief, for your insights. Through you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Farmer.
Chair recognizes Councilperson Bias.
I just want to know if these were union positions. I don't have any notes in either of my binders about it.
Yes, Councilwoman Byers, they are union positions. Both of them are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilperson Horsley.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that this is minimal positions for what we need in Hamden, and I understand that our budgetary constraints, but especially in my district, the cut through from Whitney Avenue to Dixwell is a huge issue for traffic. And I know that the police department is doing the best they can to minimize that. Just the other day, I saw a bunch of officers on Whitney Avenue trying to wave folks down to say slow down. And so I appreciate everything the chief and this department is doing. And so, you know, as we get out of this debt hole in the next few years, I hope we can bolster this department so we can really get traffic under control in town.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Horsley. Councilperson Bonadies.
Thank you. I do want to echo what Councilwoman Horsley said. This department is very understaffed. The demand from the public is overwhelming. The desire for more enforcement, changing, traffic, it's really overwhelming for the department. And I know for Chief Sullivan, it's very, very time consuming. Again, I would like to ask the chief though, what would you need in this department so that you could deliver what the public is really asking you for?
I believe at one time there was 5 positions there and a secretary. And I could probably use all 5 with the amount of requests that we get. We also work with engineers from WSP and they do some traffic studies for us. We've tried to save money. We bought our own count systems, and we saved quite a bit of money by doing our own counts and not going to outside vendors. So there is a request. There's a list of requests for the equipment that we have in place. We bought more monitors, speed monitors, and there's a waiting list all the time to move them to different locations. We do have, we've been involved with the road diet, which we recently passed, which had overwhelming support from the community. We probably will be bringing an ordinance to you very soon, a truck weight ordinance from 2 locations in town that have been very, very boisterous in wanting this addressed. And those are just some of the many requests that we get with speed bumps, speed humps. Mark Austin has been a great help to me as well. He's always willing to give me his time and assistance. He's put in for a lot of grants to get sidewalks, which will assist us because there's people who are requesting crosswalks. And usually you would want to have sidewalks if you're going to have a crosswalk. And there's a couple locations where we're looking at to do that as well. But the amount of work, and that's just the tip of the iceberg, really, to what we're doing in the traffic authority and the traffic division.
Thank you for that, for all that work and for that update. Did you didn't have a request for anything additional in this department? It looks like you didn't ask for anything additional. Could you?
Well, I do realize the fiscal state of the town. So we had to pick and choose where we're going to try and add some positions that we felt needed it as well. But we would not say no to any additional positions that were added to this line item.
So I'm asking you what you need in this department to deliver what the public is asking of you. What do you need?
At minimum, one temporary or one full-time position would be very helpful.
In what position? Is it, because these are two different positions.
We would look probably to have a sign maintainer, that position.
And we had one before. What is the salary of that position?
55,000.
Thank you, Councilwoman Baez.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna see what other discussion we have here. I don't know if we're gonna get, I don't know if the appetite of the council is to do this tonight, but I know from my constituents, I know from the emails that go around that this department is woefully underserved, and this is demands directly from the public, our constituents that want additional services in this department. I may make a motion. I'm gonna see what other conversations come up, but just leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councilperson Bonadise. Councilperson Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I just want to, or maybe just talk about, I hear the demands on traffic, and we are a city, and traffic goes way beyond automobiles. It's bicycles and wheelchairs and pedestrians and all of that. And I am hoping that before too much longer, we can assemble something called a complete streets team in town to really convene people from all parts of town to think seriously about what oh, that's a beaual sunset. Excuse me. If anybody else has a west-facing window.
Oh, look right here, yeah. You see outside.
So when we get to that point, signage will be important, other things will be important, and we will need to augment our traffic department and make sure that traffic and engineering interface is up to what people want. But I know the chief is supportive of this, and I think everybody on council is supportive of this. And so I'm working a little bit through the sustainable CT format to take a step in that direction. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to reference that, as I think would be a very productive next step in Hamden. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilperson. The chair recognizes Councilperson Burrito Lewis.
A little slow on the draw, so.
No problem.
Forgive me.
No, it's
This
okay.
is the department that I
Did
would.
they need me or not?
Is it me? I'm
I
sorry.
muted. Yep.
This is the department that I would like to see have an additional position.
Oh, sorry about that.
Should I mute him or not? There we go.
What can I do for you?
I'll mute you, Mick, because Councilperson Burrito Lewis is trying to speak.
Oh, I thought you guys wanted me.
No.
Mute him, charge him.
I'm going back off camera.
Leave me, goodbye, mute. There we go. I love doing that, by the way. I've been waiting for that for years. Okay.
I think this is that's good to liven it up a little bit. I think this is the department that really needs an additional position. I would be supportive of a part-time position there. I think because I've received a lot of calls as well as what Councilwoman Shoemaker just said, bikes, bicycles, and all of those lanes. But we've also received calls as it relates to signs down. Number of signs have been down. And so they've been extremely responsive when I've called. I mean, half an hour to an hour, and they've gotten it done. So I'm very appreciative of that. And even though we would like to think that we're a town, but as it relates to federal regulation, we're not. We're a town, we're not a city. If we were a town, we would be getting a lot more money in CBGB funds. We would get in over $150,000 or more. So we really is a little town, not a city yet. We're not there yet. And so we would get so much more in CBGB fund to do a lot more than we can do right now. But we're still this little town. So, but at the said time, we're growing as a town. And because of that, I think the traffic department, where this is concerned, I think we need to, we can add probably a part-time person to this department. I am in favor of that. I don't know what the department or everyone on this council will be saying, but I'm in favor of that because I just think we just need it. And there are a lot of reckless drivers out there. And my husband was involved in something of this nature. I don't want to talk about it now, but I think we really do need this to oof this department up. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilperson. The chair recognizes the Minority Leader, Councilperson Wetmore.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I'm also in support of a part-time position. I get many calls, particularly from Gaylord Mountain, West Todd, Westwood School area, the trucks that aren't supposed to be going up there or going up there. Also, so many calls from Shepherd Avenue residents because that's a huge cut through from Whitney to Dixwell. And the speed limit's 40, but they go 60. And so I get so many calls from that. So I would definitely support a part-time position. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilperson from the 5th, Councilperson Farmer.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I ushered in this conversation because I realized in the state of Connecticut, it's somewhat semantical about designation between town and city, as we are anywhere from the 9th to 11th largest municipality in the state. And there are communities that are smaller than us that are designated cities. I think my intention with bringing this up is that I don't think without a well research and methodical plan, we shouldn't be adding any positions. That's why I was saying maybe to put a zeroed position and next year through the chief and committees and commissions coming back to us with methodical research on what they actually need to implement a proper program. Although we have concerns at the moment, I think it would be a little bit too judicious, if you ask me, to not have a well thought out plan about what our intentions with traffic are. So if we add a position tonight, I will not be supporting it, but I do think we need to be thinking about a program and develop it and start thinking about it now for next year's budget, so that we can make it a priority. As so many of us tonight have said, traffic is a concern that we all have and that our constituents have raised to us. So thank you, Chairman, for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilperson Bias.
Thank you, Chairperson Caesar. Now I'm going to sound like a broken record because I actually had the same thing to say. I would be happy to put a position into this department if we had a plan. So I would love to have a plan that says what we were planning on doing with that person before we go ahead and fund it without really knowing whether there'd be a sign maintainer, what that role is versus what is actually needed, which is someone to mitigate how much traffic is happening. With that being said, at the beginning of this conversation, I said, oh, I don't want to, I really did disagreed with Farmer in that to put a position in here at zero funding. But I think that is maybe the best idea so that we know to come back to this conversation and make sure that traffic talks with planning and zoning and understands what we need as a part of the plan to make sure that we have an effective new position within the traffic department. So I would also support zeroing out a position in the budget, but not a fully funded position.
Thank you very much. I see that Councilperson Bonadies has her hand up. Councilperson Bonadies from the 9th.
Yes, thank you, Chair, Vice Chair. I would like to make a motion to, for a position in here. The chief said he needed a sign maintainer. He knows what he needed. I would like to fund it at half a year so that the chief can get his plan together and I'm trying to decide if I want a half a year or if we want part-time. Chief, what do you need? What helps you more? I want to get this department functioning.
Through the chair, Chief, would you mind answering that? Thank you.
Through you.
A part-time would definitely be helpful if we had a part-time position.
Okay. I don't know what the salary would be exactly, but I'd like to make a motion for a part-time position in this department funded for the.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor, seconded by Councilperson Wetmore. Discussion on the move to add a part-time position in the traffic department. I see that Councilperson McDowell has his hand up. Councilperson McDowell.
Did she say half a year?
Excuse me, please, can you clarify?
I asked the chief, he said a part-time position would be helpful now rather than the half a year.
It's a full year part-time, right?
Full year part-time rather than a half year full-time. It's not being served. The public is not being served at the moment.
Before I go further to Councilperson McDowell, Chief, would you mind working out the numbers on that in terms of what that would probably be for that position? So when we
I
get,
believe it would be about 33,000, just quickly doing it, but that's what we think it would be.
okay, thank you. Because I know we're gonna get to that eventually is the number. So I want to make sure we have that number. Councilperson McDowell.
Thank you. Can I get clarification on the motion on the floor as it exists?
The motion on the floor is a motion to add a position part-time for sign maintainer for roughly $33,000.
I guess my qualm with this is that a sign maintainer does not, like, don't get me wrong, signs are absolutely 100% important, but a sign maintainer is not going to produce safer roads. It's not going to, I'm not sure that we have to think about return on investments in this, and I'm not sure that we get that here. I think it's important also on this conversation, not that this is something that hasn't already been spoken about, but I don't think we're ever going to enforce our way to safer roads. We have to build them. Traffic is an engineering conversation. It is at some point we have to think strongly about moving traffic into the engineering department. I think that we have to be building roads that are safer. If somebody's flying down West Dodge Street, it's because we built it like a highway, right? And no number of police officers, no amount of traffic enforcement, you're going to see small dips in speeding trends. But if you look at the data, the speeding comes right back up. It's habits, they're cyclical. So we have to build roads that people drive on safer. So yes, our signs are critical, especially in some of the areas where traffic is a larger concern. The signage is definitely a big help. Specifically, I'm thinking of signage along Wooden, signage around Johnson and Hillfield. Like, there are particular places where signage has been critically important in especially where view is a concern. But does funding this for a half a year produce safer roads? I don't
just to clarify, it's a full year part-time.
Oh, full year part-time. Sorry.
Yeah.
I do not believe that the position produces safer roads. Not to mention that there are already people in town who are certified to deal with signage. Even when you have to call before you dig, we can phone a friend here and ask the engineering or someone else go out and, put in a sign where it's needed. Also, see, click, fix is something that we should be utilizing more, right? Where these complaints come from, who notifies us when a sign is not maintained, when a sign needs maintenance or needs to be replaced. Those calls come in from residents. We rely on our neighbors to let us know, hey, this is going on in this corner. We can't be on every corner. So, we have mechanisms in place for residents to either call in or log on their phone to see, click, fix. We need to be monitoring those appropriately, which recent data shows that we have not been, right? And that's for some of us, I think that's not a surprise. And we need to be monitoring those notifications closely, and again, working with other departments where signage is already something that is being done. This money could be going to something in engineering that could actually contribute to safer roads. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Councilperson from Spring Glen and Centerville, Councilperson Horsley.
Thank you. I've lived in a lot of places where traffic is enforced through pulling people over and giving traffic. And it does work when you know that you're going to get pulled over on Whitney Avenue. If you're going over the speed limit, you stop driving fast. And that doesn't seem to be the case in Connecticut, but I wish we had better enforcement, but we don't have enough people to enforce the traffic laws. I think it doesn't help that we have 2 state roads that go through our town that we can't really design ourselves. That's done by the state. So, I will be supporting this because I think, especially in my district, this is something that people are really interested in. So I appreciate Councillor Bonadies for raising this, and I will be supporting it.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Farmer.
Thank you, Chairman. The reason why I raised this concern is because this is an engineering question, right? The reason why I brought up the plan of conservation is because we talked about those 2 throughways that are highways. The work that Director Mark Austin is doing to work with Representative Roland Lamar, myself, Representative D'Agostino, to work to retool these roads is so important. I feel these things need to be put into engineering. I didn't want to alarm people to take away work from the chief, and I know this is a steep learning curve that the chief has dedicated himself, put his time into to understand this. But it's not something naturally that is in our policing agency's wheelhouse, and oftentimes we put too many burdens on our police. Part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because it's about priorities and about spending money to fix problems. Lastly, I'll just touch on data. It was what, 5-6 years ago that we were on the ACL's use list for racial profiling, and actually got in trouble because it ended up being that we were over policing certain people and cars and creating a whole different social issue as well as a legal liability issue. So again, I want to trust the data and science on how these things work. I want to thank Sarah Miller for the work that she does, who's been providing us with opportunities to look at other traffic agencies across the state that are doing good work. But again, the intention of this was to get us to think about what our priorities are and to think about this and move forward next year, coming back with a methodical plan, not to add to the budget a traffic person for signs, because Director Austin, Mark Austin, has been working tirelessly to come up with speed bumps and humps and working with SCROG and coming up with engineering solutions that deal with public safety and traffic. So I can't support this motion, but I believe in the spirit and intent of where it's supposed to go. Through you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilperson Schumacher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I would like to direct a question to the chief about, I hear that there are technical issues to maintain the infrastructure for traffic management, and I believe that's what this part-time position proposal is. When we launch a process for thinking about creatively what kind of 21st century roadway system we want to have in town, Chief, which part of the staffing and commission work that you're involved with, which unit in that would be involved in that conversation? Because that would be a citizen and staff conversation. Would anyone from this traffic department need to be at the table for that?
Yeah, I do work with one of them directly. We also work with outside companies. We do have some civilians who we tap into for information. But yeah, we deal with, like Councilman Farmer said, we deal with the request for speed humps, for speed bumps, for pretty much every traffic calming measure that's out there, chicanes. We do have a group that wants to do some painting in intersections as well.
Yeah.
We have the school zone study that we are implementing now. I guess it's something that was, a study was done and not much work was done, but we have started implementing the recommendations from that study through the schools throughout the town. We've already done Hamden High School and Hamden Middle School. We'll be working on the schools on Whitney Avenue next, and that's all done through this department and the personnel there.
So that's the implementation of those planning processes. But when the actual planning is done, are you relying on consultants and citizens who have some expertise? Is that what I understand?
We mainly rely on consultants.
Okay.
We do have some citizens who do reach out to us, but we mainly work with consultants that are hired through the town.
Okay, thank you very much. I do think we need the sign maintainer because there's a lot of demand for that. And I will circle back with you offline, Chief, about the team that we're trying to put together. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilperson. The chair recognizes Councilperson Roy Lewis.
Thank you, but my question was answered within those series. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And just clarification, Councilperson McDowell, you had your hand up. Was that for before or is it still for another question?
No, it's a new remark.
Sure. So you have the floor, Councilperson.
Thank you, Chair. I just, when we're talking about enforcement, I think since it's been part of this conversation, it's important to flesh out, and it's already been said. We as a body have declared racism a public health emergency, and yet we still haven't grappled with that and what that means and what our responsibilities are there. And when we look around the country at why racism is a public health emergency, we have to take note that so much of that comes from traffic stops. And even in our own communities, we have in the past struggled with disproportionate enforcement of Black and brown communities. And I can't say that that is an appropriate way to continue handling our traffic enforcement. And I just want to, because it came up, I feel obligated to put my name on the record as saying that I do not believe that this is the right way to continue talking about traffic enforcement and safer roads. We have to grapple with that. We've declared racism a public health emergency, and we have an obligation to act on that accordingly. traffic stops have to be on the top of that conversation. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes the council president.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to clarify, Chief, we did have a sign maintainer previously. I know we talked about this before, but it was a while ago.
In the past, they've had, but we haven't had one recently.
How is the sign maintenance being handled then through outside contractors, et cetera?
That's being done by the 2 employees now. So a sign maintainer would free them up to do other assignments. So there's a lot of other work that they could be doing rather than that.
So it would free them up to do other traffic type enforcement, but they're not doing traffic stops, right?
No, these are not police officers. They deal with the signage, line painting, etc. We do have a separate police traffic division that does do enforcement throughout the town.
Okay, because I do think the enforcement issue is something that's a large discussion, and where does traffic belong? Engineering, police, big discussion. But a smaller one is, I was not going to support this really, but was when one of our colleagues said, the public is not being served. To me, that's important. And yesterday, we're not supposed to say names, but one of our honorable colleagues yesterday said, about bulk trash, we're paying all these taxes and people aren't getting services. So that is important. And traffic is something that is very important to people. And because it's not just about inconvenience and feeling a sense of service for your tax dollars, but it is about safety. I have large concerns, in kind of my neck of the woods. There's almost always a bad, if not fatal, accident on Whitney Ave. And maybe a sign can't fix that, but maybe freeing up these other positions to do more, maybe it will. So I'll be supporting the motion, and I am glad that it was altered a little bit so that it does give the chief some time to figure out how to implement this person. But it also, we've had a sign maintainer before, so I think hopefully we can get that person back to work. And administration, please be cognizant of the discussion about larger scale planning, because it seems like that is something that we really do need. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Council President. Chair recognizes Councilperson Weber.
Thank you. I might have missed a second or two of the conversation. My internet got a little spotty. So if in redundancy, please forgive me. But I want to ask the chief about technologies, traffic technologies, some of the cutting edge technologies that are being used across the country to help with traffic.
Chief?
Yeah, we're very far behind, and that's because of monies. We have purchased recently our own counters, so we can do some of our own studies. But there is technology out there that we would love to get, and I would work with those 2 staff members to see what they need themselves out there to assist in those endeavors.
Can you just speak to some of the technologies that we could use to upgrade and maybe not? Well, I'm thinking about adding positions, and I'm thinking that a lot of these technologies could possibly mitigate us having to do that over time.
We also do have some advanced vehicle detection at, I believe, 6 intersections throughout the town. And we're working on 4 more right now.
Are we talking about cameras?
They are cameras, they're vehicle detection cameras.
Mhm. Okay, all right, thank you, Chief.
Are those a state point of information? Are those
Station.
state roads?
Chief, there's a point of information.
Yeah, they're state roads, and they monitor a lot of the light patterns. So that I've gotten this question numerous times at our traffic commission meetings about ticketing with those cameras for red lights. It's illegal in Connecticut, if that's where the next question is going to go to.
Just a point of clarification on that, Chief. So are you saying that these are red light cameras, or are you saying these are not red light cameras through you, Chairman?
They are not red light cameras, Councilman Farmer.
Thank you very much, Chief. I lost track here, so I believe it's Councilperson Bonadies, I believe. So Councilperson Bonadies? You're muted, Councilperson.
Thank you. Yes. I would like to see the studies that are being referred to regarding traffic stops. I think, we're talking about enforcement, and then when we discuss enforcement, we're hearing that it's racial, we're having racial problems. I would like to see those studies. I mean, someone's going over the speed limit. It doesn't really matter who's driving that car. It needs to be rectified. So I would like to see the studies that say that that Hamden's having trouble with racial traffic stops, and that the remedy for that is to not make any traffic stops at all. So I would really like to see that data. I think Mr. McDowell referred to it. If you've got information that I don't have, I'd like to see those studies, please. You think you could furnish those?
Thank you. I do want to remind the council, we're talking about a motion on the floor for a part-time street sign maintainer, or street part-time maintainer here. Not to shut anybody's discussion down. I just want to make sure we stay focused on the amendment that's being proposed here by you, Councilperson, please. The amendment by you. So just with that in mind, let's continue to talk about the topic at hand, which is the position here. Would Councilperson McDowell like to ask a question? Comment?
Well, yeah, I mean, I certainly those can be furnished. I mean, this is common knowledge at this point, right? I mean, there are dozens of studies out there from the Department of Justice, the ACLU, civil liberty, like there's so sure, if you'd like, I can certainly collect some of those and get them out there, but I mean, also a simple Google would save us a few back and forth emails. With that said, the reason I have my hand raised is, excuse me, I'm lost my train of thought for a moment. Yes, the requests, sorry about that. The request that I often see for traffic enforcement is for speed bumps, rumble strips. I don't often see requests for signs. And when I do, they are requests for stop signs, which require a study, which often takes over a year to deliver. So it's hard for me to imagine, unless there's a massive backlog of signs that need to be implemented or maintained or are not, it's hard for me to imagine that this delivers on the community requests for service, for safer roads. Because I just, you get the occasional stop sign request, but by and large, it's speed bumps and rumble strips, which also require speed studies. So traffic studies. So I'll leave it there. I just don't know that I'm opposed to this. I don't see a reason to raise my hand again at this point unless I'm engaged by a colleague again, but I'll be opposing this for those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. That's why, I didn't call it out of order because you were responding to a previous colleague. So that's why
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I want to give you the ability to do that, to be fair. So let's stay to the topic now of the motion at hand, which is obviously the part-time position. The chair recognizes the councilperson from the second district, Councilperson Alston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick catch up for me. The chief, you mentioned that the red light signs were illegal. Are speeding ticket cameras illegal in the state of Connecticut?
Yes, Councilman Alston, they are.
Okay, and so to Councilman Weber's comment, that's why we're not using them. Because although I don't like them, I know that they're an effective way to control traffic and speeding. So people who tend to go the same route every day learn that there's a speeding camera there and they slow down in those areas. So even though I don't like them, they are effective.
Yeah, right now, we don't even have a decision to make on that because they're not legal. But one question was brought up about the signs. We do get a lot of requests for signage, stop signs. We usually use Yukon crash study information, and as the LTA, I can approve the stop signs, and so we do get quite a bit of signage requests. And those come up on our agenda quite a bit.
And this would be the department that would get contacted for requests for speed bumps, because I've actually gotten requests for speed bumps from some.
Yeah, we get a lot of requests for speed bumps. We revamped our website to make it easier for people to get on the agenda and how the process works to get a speed bump. And then we have a criteria of the amount of residents on that street that need to be in favor of the speed bumps. And it's all in a process that's very well spelled out now on our website.
Is there a line item on here that addresses that? Speed bumps and requests for rumble strips and stuff?
I believe that's captured more in the capital accounts.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councilperson Alston. Councilperson Farmer.
Thank you, Chairman. Lots of exciting stuff. Just to be brief on this, that there is a bill to get speeding cameras up this year. So that might come through, and that might be something that we'll look through rather than the red light cameras. Earlier in the year, we did not meet as a police commission and traffic commission because they're one and the same. And I brought this up that we weren't doing this for 6 months. So I find it hard to support a position when part of the work wasn't being done for months. I can't support adding a position, but I did want to support the idea of us coming to this and thinking through it, because we all have strong feelings, and obviously, pun intended, this is the intersection to many other conversations we are having. So with that, I will leave and not say anything else about this. But again, we did not have meetings of the police commission and traffic commission for 6 months. So I find it hard to need a position when we weren't meeting and taking comments and requests from community members. Through you, Chairman.
Thank you very much.
Can I address that, Councilman Caesar?
Yes.
I believe he was talking about a lot of that was during the pandemic. That was prior to myself being chief. And those meetings not happening really put us behind the 8 ball with the traffic division, and that's part of the reason why our workload is so extensive. I think we're still playing catch up from those meetings not happening. So you are correct, Councilman Farmer.
Thank you very much, Chief Sullivan. Councilperson Bonadies is the maker of the motion. Do you wish to speak?
I would like to call the question.
Okay, the question's been called. All in favor of calling?
Can I have a roll call vote?
Roll call vote has been requested. Councilor Clerk? Let me know when you're ready.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, who seconded that?
That's what
I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I apologize. Calling
Could I have a second?
by Councilperson Roe Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilperson.
All right, this is to come down that regional house for a couple days. She ain't want to stay there. No, she ain't want to stay with me.
You're unmuted.
Yes,
But we'll keep her. Oh,
Councilperson Gary.
sorry.
My apologies. I just muted all. Sorry, Mr. Caesar. Yeah. You can mute me back.
I certainly will.
All right, are we ready?
We're ready for calling question. This is a vote to call the question on the part-time position.
Got it. Councilman Austin,
No.
Councilwoman Baez,
No.
Councilwoman Bonadies,
You're muted.
Councilman, I got her.
Yes.
Councilman Caesar,
Yes.
Councilwoman Klaus.
Yeah.
Councilman Farmer,
No.
Councilwoman Gary,
No.
Councilwoman Horsley,
Yes.
Councilman McDowell,
No.
President McGarry. Gotcha.
He's a yes.
Councilwoman Rowe Lewis,
It's a yes for me.
Councilwoman Shoemaker,
Yes.
Councilman Weber,
Yes.
Councilwoman Wetmore.
Yes.
9 in favor. 5 opposed. It passes.
The question's been called. We're now going to call for a vote on passing position.
Roll call, please, Chairman.
There's been a roll call requested.
Okay.
And just to clarify, this is adding a position of part-time. Correct? Just make sure we're on the right page here. Correct? Part-time.
So is the motion going to read part-time sign maintainer funded at approximately 33,000?
Correct, because we're waiting on a number from the chief as to what that number would be. I think it's 33,000 was the number that he was estimating it to be at.
So we'll use approximately 33 for now?
Yes, approximately for now until the chief gets the number.
Okay,
That's the motion.
okay. All righty. Councilman Austin,
No.
Councilwoman Baez,
No.
Councilwoman Bonadies,
Yes.
Councilman Caesar,
Yes.
Councilwoman Klaus. That was a no? Councilman Farmer,
No.
Councilwoman Gary,
No.
Councilwoman Horsley,
Yes.
Councilman McDowell,
No.
President McGarry,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rowe Lewis,
Yes.
Councilwoman Shoemaker,
Yes.
Councilman Weber,
No.
Councilwoman Wetmore.
Yes.
Seven to seven.
7 to 7, it sure is. It fails.
I'd like to make a motion, Chairman, to put a zeroed position in the traffic positions.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Councilperson Farmer to make a position that's zeroed out. And it's been seconded by Councilperson Baez, I believe. Was that correct? Or was that Councilperson Klaus? I missed it.
It was me.
Councilperson Klaus. Okay, so that's the motion on the floor now for position to be added. Part-time or full-time, Councilperson Farmer?
I You know, I'll say a full-time position, but with the contingent that there's a strategy and plan for that position.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is adding a full-time position, zeroed out, as the motion. It's seconded by Councilperson Klaus. Discussion on this item. Seeing, Councilperson McGarry.
I'd just like to clarify, I think that, Mr. Farmer's point that we make a contingent upon a plan is a good point, but all we can do is add it in here and speak to the record. We want a plan. And that was me speaking to the record there. So that's all we can do. We can't put it into, the book.
That's why I left that part of it out of the motion. It's just a motion to add a position, zeroed out for full-time maintainer. Any further discussion on it? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing one opposed.
Got it, Mr. Lewis.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay. We are going to now move to approve the mayor's recommended expenditures. Is that where we're at, or revenue? There's no revenue, right? So it's expenditures. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the mayor's recommended expenditures for the traffic department?
As amended.
So moved.
As amended.
As amended. Thank you very much. I apologize. As amended. So I was moved by Councilperson Farmer, and I believe seconded by Councilperson Wetmore. Okay, discussion on expenditures.
Come on.
Chair recognizes Councilperson Farmer.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. We spent some time, so I won't take up too much time. I guess just through you, Chief, through you, Chairman, to the Chief, can you show where, in terms of line item, where the camera you spoke of would be reflected in the budget?
That's in capital.
Okay, so did we pass it and pass capital, a past capital budget, and that's where the funding came from through you, Chairman?
It's a capital through a state project.
Okay, is it possible to get that information to us through you, Chairman, either yourself or Director Jackson or Tandem?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I guess seeing that we've started down this journey, is there any concerns, questions, or comments that you want to share with us? Okay, I'm all done, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Councilperson Bias.
Yes, I wanted to just quickly ask about the bus shelters parts, line item. It says here that we are going to put a replacement bus shelter in it for $13,000. Wouldn't that be a capital? Wouldn't that be a capital expense? That's my question.
That was from a hit and run, and we plan on fixing that.
Any further comment on that? Councilperson?
Can
Bias, are you finished? Okay, the chair recognizes Councilperson Farmer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad Councilperson Baez brought that up. I Can I get some clarification on this, Chief? I talked to Director Caesar from Public Works, and he said that he was working with CT Transit for them to fund a replacement. So I am confused. Is CT Transit going to fund the replacement, or are we funding the replacement?
My understanding is that we are funding that one. And the one that you're talking about is from the one from the fatality at Dixwell Avenue in Wooded. That one, the bus company is going to be paying for, I believe. Two different ones.
Okay, I brought this up to Director Caesar about the one on Newhall. So if we're getting multiple bus shelters fixed, great. I just want to make sure that there's not duplication of costs where we're spending the same money. So if you can flush that out with Director Caesar to make sure that we're not paying for it and the state's going to pay for it, that'd be deeply appreciated through you, Chairman.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I will contact Director Caesar and we'll work on that.
Thank you very much, Councilperson Farmer. Any further discussion on any expenditures in the budget for this department? Okay, seeing none, I will call for a vote on approval of the expenditures as amended. We didn't amend it though, right? So it's not as amended, it's just as they are, correct, expenditures?
As a minute for the salaries.
True, okay, good point.
There was
So I was, thank you, Councilperson. Yes, we're gonna motion to approve the, actually, it all in favor of approving the expenditures as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Expenditures have been approved unanimously. I think that's it, right? We did the positions.
One opposed.
None of these was opposed.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. Bonadies was opposed. Thank you. Thank you, Councilperson Bonadies. Okay, so did you get that, Council Clerk Renta?
Got it.
Yeah, thank you. So I think that's it for this department, correct?
That is all, Mr. Caesar. Thank you very much. All
Thank
right.
you very much.
Roll up our sleeves and dive into the police department. And I'm just kidding. We're going to do the police department now next Tuesday. We need a lot of information. We got to get information from the lawyers. We have to hear from Mr. Jackson. And we still have a lot of work to do. So we're going to move on to this till next Tuesday. But we do have Saturday. So hopefully tomorrow's a nice day and we can enjoy it a little bit. Then we'll move on to Saturday. Councilor McDowell.
Thank you. Is there not like certain portions we can maybe cut through, like maybe revenues or something? No. Oh, all right. Never mind.
Well,
see.
I think there is, but it's 8:56 and
Okay. I actually didn't realize how late it was.
yeah, it got pretty late.
Sorry. I'm just really, really anxious about the time we have left. I also wanted to ask if the chat, when we log off, is the chat cataloged?
I believe so.
It has to be
Councilman.
saved and cataloged for FOIA purposes. Is that correct?
Councilperson, I believe you are correct.
I don't know, I'm looking for the appropriate, I don't know, noise.
Yeah, I figured maybe Clerk Renta had that answer, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. It should be.
I'll look into it.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And the last question I have is for Director Jackson. We talked a lot about ECS tonight, and I was wondering if between now and the last couple of days of budget season, if you wouldn't mind sort of thinking, it doesn't have to be a ton of work, but maybe if you could think about the liabilities that you see outstanding and come up with maybe an updated, based on our updates, an updated estimation of where you think ECS might need to be fair and limit liabilities in this budget. Is that
that's a Board of Ed thing? I think we need to.
I'm so sorry. You're right. It is late. Not ECS, ENC. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and yes, just match West Haven and we'll be fine.
Oh man. ENC. If you could and again, I'm not asking you to sit down and crank out a spreadsheet, but if you could think about where our liabilities exist in this budget and where you think ENC needs to be to mitigate any potential that, you know, that I think that might be helpful to have, you know, towards the end of next week, where when we're running up on our deadline. I figure that's probably one of the last things that we can update once we know where we're at.
And I would encourage folks, send your questions ahead of time. More homework, please. You can go faster. Mr. Farmer, do you have something else to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, I guess my question is that will we have all the capital by Tuesday? Like when when will we get that? We're nearing the end of this discussion, and it keeps coming up.
That is true, Councilor Farmer. We do not anticipate going out to market this summer. We need to be able to demonstrate the posture of the community to Wall Street. So we have a number, but another thing that we need to add in is the approved debt service number. It doesn't actually impact this year that we're talking about, but we have to demonstrate sort of community willingness to do the $10 million that we think is plus or minus the right number on capital. So I do not believe that it's going to come out, because we're coming to the end of the process here. I do not believe that we're going to be able to present a bona fide 1 + 5 year capital improvement plan before Tuesday.
I have a lot of sympathy for you, Director Jackson, because you have jumped into the hot seat in a time where we need you most, and are dealing with the burden of us not filling this position for so long. Nonetheless, I have great concern, mostly because we don't even realize or have a projection of where our department heads want us to go, because we haven't seen what their capital requests have been. So even if we don't go out to bond, I just want to see what are the priorities for departments and department heads, so that we can start to, sort through that in our heads and say, okay, well, I've brought up several times now that the police department needs new computer servers. I know this. I've brought it up. I've had conversations with them, but like, we don't know what costs we need to inquire. And so I don't know else how to ask. And I understand you have a ton of things on your plate, but I feel that we need this kind of now soon, so that we can figure some of these things out. So all that to say,
right, I can certainly provide to you broad buckets.
Okay.
But that will absolutely yield more questions. For example, there is no line in my broad bucket that says police servers. And there's a line for police improvements. There's another line for IT improvements. And so it will yield a number of questions. And so I'm happy to try to answer them to the best of my ability. But it wouldn't be fair for me to say that, I'll give you something that you can say, okay, I know where every dollar is going to go, because it's pretty broad based right now. And what we're trying to do is narrow it, decide. So I'll give you an example. Buildings. We got a lot of building infrastructure needs, but I don't right now want to put in, okay, so, $13,000 for HVAC here, and then, a bigger issue arises. I think that our public works team needs to be able to move that around. So, since it's been such a long time since we've done this, I'm trying to keep the buckets broad, to the extent that our bond counsel will say that's acceptable, that's not acceptable, so that our department heads have the capacity to take on their priorities when they come, because the priorities that they say today, there's only one thing I know: 30 days from now, something else is going to happen and they're going to have to deal with it.
Well, just to steal a terminology from you, if we can get the boulders and rocks, I can understand if we can't shift through the sand yet. But boulder and rocks would help me to figure out where we are. So again, I appreciate all that you're doing, and I appreciate as Council Baz pointed out, you being candid with us and coming to us with corrections. So I'm not trying to harp on you. You're the third finance director that I've really been harping on. So that's kind of where this is coming from. So
Let's
I can
rock
get to,
that capital
I can get to a rock level analysis, sir.
Okay. And Saturday, we need to rock as well. Get it? Well, no? Okay. So it would be appreciated, Mr. Jackson. We have been waiting on that capital budget for quite a while. And that is all. Good night, everyone. Enjoy the day tomorrow. We'll see you Saturday morning.
let's rock and roll. Safe travels.